The views and opinions expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Reproduction or dissemination other than for the purpose of education or information without the express written permission of the Phoenix Research Institute or Nova Society Media is strictly prohibited.
So I would like to welcome everyone back to another episode of the Nova Society. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be discussing the aftermath of the 2024 presidential election, responding to listener emails and concerns, what we got wrong, what happened, the appointment that President-elect Trump has made, what may be happening with his New York so-called hush money trial, and more. So we welcome all our listeners back, and we will be here as second Trump administration is inaugurated and 2025 moves forward. So, Mark, Scott, where would you like to begin?
This is the easy part here. It's the end of the Trump administration that's going to be the real shit show, not the beginning of it. Yep. It's whether he's leaving, whether he allows somebody to, allows a Republican primary to happen without him in it.
He won't.
Well,
he won't leave. That's my guess.
Right. I mean, that's really that's really going to be where the test comes. So pace yourself, as Mark says, for the next 2 years at least, but probably for all four. But it's the end that's going to be the real shit show, not the beginning.
And right. This could, like I say, this could go terribly bad when we talk about the Attorney General. There's nothing that stops him from appointing Jesse Waters. When Sean Hannity, or Brian Kilmeade.
When does that appointment have to be done? Do you know?
No, it'll be done today. My guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Does Sean Hannity have a law degree?
Don't have to have a law degree.
Yeah.
What?
You don't have to have a law degree.
General, you don't have to have a law degree?
No.
That's the Attorney General, and you don't have to have a law degree.
No.
I did not know that.
And, to be the president, you don't have to be not convicted of 34 felonies. No. Do you know to be a cardinal in the Catholic Church, you don't even have to be a priest?
You have to be Catholic?
Just have to be Catholic. I mean, it's just, but then again, it's always been bishops and this, except back in the olden days where it was a little different. But no, nobody expected these kind of things to happen. That's the whole point. This is absolutely new ground. There's nothing that says you've got to be a lawyer to be the Attorney General. It's an administrative position. It's supposed to be. It's the chief law enforcement officer. Hell, he could call on that Yo-Yo Aparo or whatever his name is from Arizona, that sheriff that they booted out. Okay. Chief law enforcement officer, not the head lawyer, but Brooke, like Scott said, pace yourself. Don't be thinking about things like this because it is that messed up.
Oh boy. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think we can't see her, but I don't think she's thanking us for that one.
No, I am. I was just thinking about it's going to be a very long road, and I honestly don't. I mean, Trump has said several times that, or at least once anyway, that he should not have left after 2020 or in 2020 or 2021, whenever it was.
Right.
And I don't believe, if he's still alive, I don't see that he's going to be leaving in 2028. And people say, well, he can't run again. I mean, Russia has a constitution with presidential term limits as well that Putin certainly changed and was able to make himself president for life. So I think that Trump is going to be in office until he is no longer walking and talking and breathing.
Well, and again, you can't compare this with Putin and Russia simply because Putin got it. What it takes to overturn or to change the Constitution of Russia is a lot different than what it takes to change the Constitution of the United States.
True, but I believe...
And all he had to do was get his lackeys into the government, get them to vote for it. There, the Constitution changed. You can't do that here. Can't do that here. Even though the most states are Republican controlled, you still have to have 38 that are going to agree with changing the Constitution. And you can't find 38 states.
However, I'm not sure that Trump will change the Constitution. I think that he will simply, I think that he will find a way to be handed the next election, and he will remain. That's.
I just think that you're giving him way more credit than I don't think he's that bright.
Well,
I honestly don't think he's that bright. Huh?
The people around him are, and if Judge Merchan says that he is going to sentence Trump to 3 years or whatever, and then hold the sentence in abeyance until Trump is no longer in office, I think that Trump will do everything he can to make sure that he never leaves office. So he will try to have himself and his sycophants and satellites make sure that he does not leave office, because he does not want ever to see the inside of a prison cell. I would expect.
My comment to that is,
we'll see.
Why doesn't he just pardon himself? Oh, because he can't pardon himself from a state charge. Well, using your argument, he didn't care that he can't. He just does it, and there, it's over and done with. Why even go through all that trouble of worrying about it afterwards? He may. He may just go ahead and say, well, I can now pardon myself.
I have no idea what he will do. I mean, at this point, honestly, nothing would surprise me because of the Supreme Court saying, well, the president has all these limited, unlimited immunity and this, that, and the other. So who knows what the extension and expansion of the executive power will be. We'll have to see. That is something that is as yet untested. I'm just not looking forward to this. I was so hoping for a nice, smooth, normal presidency under President Harris, and somewhere, I don't know, I read this or I saw it on I don't know, again, MSNBC or something, where one of the speakers was reassuring the host that that President-elect Trump was going to include various experienced or I don't know if they use the word normal people in his administration or something like that. And I thought, if you have to say that the president is going to be including normal people, experienced people, regular people, whatever the wording was, that is a reassurance, then there's a big problem. We, the American people, should not need to be reassured that the administration will also include people who are experienced and balanced and normal. And I should have saved that that discussion so that we could put the link in our show, but I did not.
Yeah. And again, when you talk about people that are sane, normal, and all the rest of it, that's a matter of, I guess, perspective. A majority of the Americans, for some ungodknown reason that I can't explain, thought that Trump was the more sane, reasonable selection for president of the United States. So,
And here's the cool part. They already feel better about the economy.
Yep.
Consumer confidence is up among Republicans, down among Democrats. The American people are highly partisan right now, and and those who have been screaming about the economy for the past 4 years, that economy has not changed one iota. They like it now. And, you know, we could just call it out and say, look, this is, the data is here, and you can look at the data if you want to. And, I know your feelings are one way or another, but you can't lie about the data. It's there to be seen. I'm looking forward to Trump lowering prices somehow. I don't know how it's going to exactly happen, but I am looking forward to it because I think prices are too high. Maybe he'll just make peace with China. He'll give them Taiwan in exchange for cheap goods coming back from China over here. That sounds like a good deal for the American people,
especially the American worker.
And remember that Elon Musk is going to trim $2 trillion or something from the American government in terms of wasteful spending. So we'll just have to see where that's going to come from.
They said on Maria Bartiromo, I think it was, on her show last week, she was talking about that $2 trillion cut that Elon Musk is promising. And she had on a Republican congressperson, and she said to him, do you think it's possible to cut $2 trillion out of the budget? And he said, oh, yeah, absolutely. It should be real easy to do. She said, well, how would you do that? And he said, well, let's look at the Department of Education. I think the Department of Education's budget is like $80 billion or something like that. And that's not going to get you to $2 trillion. You destroy that entire department, fire everybody, take all their funding away. Now you need, I don't know what the math is, $1.8 trillion left.
1.92.
Right. $1.92 trillion left to go. Where are you going for that? Plus, here's another thing. In some red states, not all of them, but in some red states, the Department of Education pays for as much as 1 out of 5 or 6 of their teachers. So they're going to lose a whole bunch of teachers because they can't afford them, because there won't be a Department of Education to pay for them. And those teachers teach, special ed under the federal government. So they lose them. Pretty much their entire student bodies, as far as I can tell, are special ed. And so they're going to be short teachers. So they're going to have they're going to be less educated. They're going to be poorer. They're going to still have high prices. They're making a mess of the country, but they won't acknowledge it. It's not, it'll be somebody else's fault, as you said, Brooke. It'll be the enemy within that's causing it. Judges who stop him from doing whatever he wants to do. But again, it's not the beginning of this administration that's going to be the real problem. It's going to be the end. So just keep that in mind. Pace yourself and try to enjoy it as best you can, because I think the people that he hurts the most are the people who voted for him.
So when does the end begin? I mean, does it begin after year 2, such as in year 3, or does it begin in year 4, in your opinion?
So I don't know if you remember this, but within like 20 days of him getting inaugurated last year, he declared that he was running again. He was running for re-election. I wonder if he's going to try to do that this time. And I'm going to predict that he will. He's going to say, look, I'm going to run for president again. I'm going to be running for re-election. I didn't get 2 terms in a row. So that's what's due me as your president. 2 terms in a row, not separated by a term of Biden. And we're going to let the Supreme Court ultimately decide that over the next 4 years to say whether he could run again because he didn't get 2 consecutive terms as president. And that's what the Constitution calls for. What do you think?
Yep, I would agree with you.
Well, I would say that we're really bad at predictions, and whenever we make one, it's the kiss of death. So probably that is not going to happen. But anyway, if that happens, maybe they dust Obama off and bring him back out to run against Trump. Who knows? I mean, that opens up an awful lot of stuff. Okay, it does say 2 terms. It doesn't say 2 consecutive terms. It says 2 terms. And, 1, 2, that's 2. So, we got to, but hey, if he tries it, just think, we might get George W. Bush back. Or who the hell, Jimmy Carter's still alive. Maybe he'll come out of retirement. Who knows? I agree with Scott in the sense of you got to pace yourself. If nothing else, look at all the material we've got over the next few years to be able to talk about when we get away from the election, and we're not talking about sports. I mean, look at all the stuff that we can analyze as to what's happening to the country, and it may be a very good opportunity for us to see the evolution of the United States. It may not be evolving the way we want it to, or the way the founding fathers imagined it would, but it's an evolution, and we'll just have to see what's going on.
Yeah, and you can analyze my breakdown. How about that?
outside my scope of practice. No, can't do that. My attitude is just have a beverage. I mean, that always works for me. Scott, it works for him too. All you got to do is give Scott a cigar and a scotch, me a pipe and a beer, and everything seems to be all right after that.
No, I don't drink alcohol. I'm a teetotaler, so that's not going to work for me.
See, maybe that's the problem. maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
I guess you're going to need a long nap or something.
Yeah, very, very long nap.
I feel bad for people who don't drink alcohol because how they wake up in the morning is the best they're going to feel all day.
Pretty much. All right, guys.
All right, so I guess we are off and running into our continued and ongoing, and as you say, Mark, we have a ton of material to discuss, so please, dear listeners, please do continue to send in your questions, and if you have anything that you'd like to discuss with us and you'd like to be a guest on the Nova Society, please include that in your email. And thank you, Mark and Scott, and thank you to all our listeners. And we look forward once again to having you enjoying our show and benefiting from our rotten predictions and our analysis of what's happening today. And do join us again next time on the Nova Society. Take care.
So that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Science. The JCIS is an open journal for upcoming scholars. The JCIS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis. The JCIS is a publication of Nova Works, a scholarly depository at Nova Southeastern University. A link to the journal is in our description. We'd also like to thank our podcast partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, who is our editing partner, and Podkite, who does all of our analytics. We'd also like to thank iHeart Radio, where people get their music and podcasts, Apple iTunes, the largest source for music and podcasts on the internet, Spotify, the most popular source for the Nova Society. The Nova Society is available on all these and other quality platforms mentioned in our description. We'd also like to thank our listeners. Without you, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a comment, a question, or would like to be a guest on the Nova Society, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. Always remember, the power of society is knowledge. So for Dr. Scott Gershwer, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Priscilla Hobbs, and all of us here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Be well, and we hope to see you again next time.